Honors Algebra. This is going to be a video over Chapter 3, Section 4 in your book, which is slope of a line, or sometimes we call it rate of change. There are four kinds of lines that we can have, and we always look at a line going from left to right. So the four slopes that we can have is this first one, which looks like it's going uphill from left to right. We would call that a positive slope. So if it's going uphill from left to right, you know that that line has a positive slope. Okay, in slope number 2, if you look at that line going from left to right, it's going downhill, which means that has a negative slope. And then the next line, if you look at it, it is going straight across. Okay, and it's a horizontal line. So a horizontal line is flat. It has zero slope. And we always actually write the word zero for zero slope. And then lastly, the last one, a vertical line that's going up and down, that is said to have a undefined slope. Now, some teachers mistakenly say this last one has no slope, but that is not true. If you were taught last year that it has no slope, that is incorrect. We will call it undefined slope. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about what is slope. But when we talk about the slope of a line, we're talking about how much it slants. So what we are looking at is the change in y, or the up and down, over the change in x, which is the left and right. Okay, so this would be rise over run. And for some reason in math, slope, instead of saying it would be S, actually slope is represented with the letter M. So M, which stands for slope, is the change in y over the change in x, or you will hear me say many times, rise over run. The change in y over change in x. So one of the first things that we're going to do is we have to be able to count the slope of a line if we are given the line on a graph. So as you can see in my picture, I have a line, and I know 2 points on that line, and what we're going to do is we're going to find the slope of this line by counting the slope, which means the rise over the run. So you're going to start at one of the 2 points. I'm going to start at this top one, and if I want to figure out the rise over the run, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count how far I need to go up and down to the second point, and how far I have to go left and right to the second point. Alright, so if we start at that top point and we go down, because you always go up and down first, we have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. Okay, so my rise is -5, because when you go down, that's negative. Okay, now at that point, I'm right here, but I'm trying to get to the other point. So now I have to go this way, and how many places do I have to go? I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I go from here over to this last point, so I'm going from here to here, that is 6 to the right, so that is positive 6. So my rise is -5 and my run is positive 6. So the slope of this line is -5, 6. The slope of a line is always going to be a fraction. And if you can reduce it, you will always reduce it. Okay, so here's sample 2. So we're going to count the slope. And again, you can start at either point. Now the first thing I know is my slope of my line on this problem has to be a positive slope, and I know that because it's going uphill, and uphill line has positive slope. Alright, so if I start at this bottom point and I go up to the second point, I have to go how far up? Well, I have to go up this far. How many was that? Well, from the beginning, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my rise is positive 5. Okay, now we're going to look at the run. So now I'm here, and I have to get to here. So how far do I have to go? I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I miscounted on that point. No, I did. It's 4, 3. So I went right 6 places. Okay? So my rise is positive 5, and my run is positive 6. So my slope of this line is 5, 6. All right, here's my next example. So I have to go from one point to the other, and again, it doesn't matter which way I go. Now, I know from my beginning slide when I talked about the 4 different slopes, this line has a 0 slope, but we want to specifically see what kind of slope it has. So if we start at this point right here, and I talk about my rise, how far do I have to go up and down to get to this second point? Well, I don't have to go any, so my rise is 0. So my rise is 0, and then what is my run? My run is, if I start from here and I go over to here, I have to go how far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my run is positive 7. So my slope is 0 over 7, which is 0. So this line is 0 slope. Okay, on this next example, if we look at it, we know it's going straight up and down, so I should come up with an undefined slope. So if I start here and I want to get down to here, my rise is going to be, I go from here down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went down 6, so that's negative 6. And then my run, I don't have to go left or right, so I get a slope of negative 6 over 0. Anytime there's a 0 on the bottom of a fraction, this is called undefined slope. All right, part 2 is, instead of giving you a graph of a line, I will give you 2 points on the line, and instead of graphing them, we're going to use the formula to actually find the slope. And there is a formula that we use that says y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, let's talk about that formula. What does that mean? Okay, those are not exponents. Subscripts are not exponents. Subscripts come underneath the variable, and they represent that if you have 2 of the same thing in a problem, it shows the difference between them. So if you look at the 2 points I gave you, negative 3, 6, and 2, negative 4, you should know that this is an x and this is a y, and this is an x and this is a y. You see how I have 2 x's and 2 y's? So the way to figure out which one is which is the first x is in the first parentheses, the second x is in the second parentheses, the first 6 is in the first parentheses, and the negative 4 is in the second parentheses. So my first parentheses are going to be my x1, y1, and my second parentheses are going to be my x2, y2. Now, all you do is you take those numbers and you plug them in the formula. Y sub 2 is negative 4. The formula says minus. Y sub 1 is 6. On the bottom, x sub 2 is 2. Formula says minus. X sub 1 is negative 3. So I plugged my information in my formula. Now all I have to do is do the computation. Negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. 2 minus negative 3 is 5. You always simplify slope if you can. So my slope of this particular line is negative 2 over 1. So had I given you a graph, when I found the slope, what would have happened was when you counted the rise over the run, it would have come up as negative 2 over 1. And you can just write that, as negative 2 if you want to. So my final answer to this problem is just -2. All right, here's sample number 2. So when I give you the 2 points, 8, -4, -9, 6, I would highly suggest that you label your points x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, and make sure you know the formula. The formula never changes. It's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now I'm ready to start plugging in my numbers. So y sub 2 is 6 minus y sub 1 is -4. On the bottom, x sub 2 is -9. The formula says minus, and x sub 1 is 8. So now I do the computation. 6 minus -4 is 10. On the bottom, -9 minus 8 is -17. So the slope of this line is -10/17. Okay, a couple more examples. So next one, if my 2 points are -3 or -2, 6 and -2, 8. All right, so let's label our points. X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And my formula is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So I plug my numbers into the formula, and I get m equals 8 minus 6 over -2 minus -2. When you do the computation of this one, you get 2 over 0. So now what you have to remember is, if I would have graphed this line, it would have been a vertical line because it has a rise but no run. So what kind of slope is 2 over 0? You need to know that that is an undefined slope. Anytime you get a fraction with a 0 on the bottom, you need to know that that means undefined slope. Okay, and last example. 7, -9, and 14, -9. Again, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Write your formula down. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, plug your numbers in. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 is going to be -9 minus -9. X sub 2 minus x sub 1 is going to be 14 minus 7. So on this one, I get 0 over 7. So this one would be, we have no rise or run, and we have no rise, and we have a run of 7. So if that was a graphed line, it would be a horizontal line. What kind of slope is this? You need to know that this is 0 slope. Anytime you have a 0 on top of the fraction, you need to know that that means it has 0 slope. The last thing that we have to be able to do when we're talking about slope is, if I gave you 2 points and I gave you the slope of the line, a part of the problem is going to be missing, so this r. We need to know, what does r have to be to give me a line that would have a slope of -1/2. So what is the other part of this first point that would make this problem true? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down the formula for slope. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, now if you look and see what I gave you, this is what I gave you. This is x sub 1, this is y sub 1, this is x sub 2, this is y sub 2, and here's my slope. So let's plug everything in. So the slope is -1/2 equals, on the top, y sub 2 is 4, minus y sub 1 is -2. On the bottom, x sub 2 is 6, minus, and on the bottom, x sub 1 is r. So I have -1/2 equals 4 minus -2 over 6 minus r. So I'm going to do whatever computation I can do here. So I have -1/2 equals 6 over 6 minus r. And you should notice that this is a simple equation to solve. It's a proportion, so we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to take 2 times 6, that's 12. And I'm going to take negative 1 times 6 minus r. So negative 1 times 6 minus r. We have 12 equals negative 6 plus r. Solve this equation for r, and we get r is 18. So the answer to this problem is r is 18. So had r been 18, then this problem would have worked. We would have had a line that has a slope of negative 1/2. Okay, let's do one more example of this. Alright, so here's my 2 points and here's my slope. So I'm trying to find, what does this r have to be? Alright, so I'm going to write my formula down. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And I know that this is x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, and here's my m. So I'm going to plug everything in. So slope is 2/3. Y sub 2 is r, minus y sub 1 is 8, over x sub 2 is negative 9, minus x sub 1 is negative 4. So now I have 2/3 equals r minus 8 over negative 5. So now I'm ready to cross multiply. When I take 3 times r minus 8, and I take negative 2 times 2 times negative 5, I get negative 10. So I have 3r minus 24 equals negative 10. Add 24 to both sides, and I get 3r is 14. Divide both sides by 3, and r is 14/3, or 4 2/3. So this problem, r would have had to be 4 2/3 to make a line that would have had a slope of 2/3. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you are going to do the slope worksheet that is attached to the notes page, and you need to complete it by tomorrow when you come to class. So do the slope worksheet is homework due Wednesday. Okay, have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.